Victoria Morrison stood on the balcony of her penthouse office and looked down at the city below. Everything she could see belonged to her in some way. Morrison Technologies owned half the buildings in downtown Seattle. At 32 years old, she had more money than she could spend in 10 lifetimes. She had power that made politicians nervous and influence that reached across continents. But Victoria was bored. The charity gala tonight was just another event where rich people pretended to care about poor people. Victoria walked through the crowd in her black designer dress that cost more than most people earned in a year. Men stared at her with desire and women with envy. She had heard every compliment and every pickup line. They all wanted something from her. Money or status or a piece of her success. Nobody saw her as a person anymore. She was just a trophy to be won. Victoria grabbed a microphone from the confused event coordinator. The string quartet stopped playing. Hundreds of faces turned toward her. She smiled that cold smile she had perfected over years of board meetings and hostile negotiations. "I have an announcement," she said. Her voice carried across the silent ballroom. "I am tired of shallow relationships with shallow people. I am tired of men who want my money and women who want my connections. So I'm making this interesting." The crowd leaned forward. Victoria always knew how to command attention. "I will marry anyone who can beat me at chess," she declared. "One game, standard rules. You win and I will marry you. I will sign a prenuptial agreement giving you half of everything I own. My lawyers will make it ironclad." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. They thought she was joking. Victoria never joked about business, and marriage was just another business transaction in her world. "I am completely serious," she continued. "Everyone here knows I was a national chess champion in college. I have never lost a casual game in my adult life. But if someone can beat me, then they deserve everything I have. They will have proven they are smarter than me. That is the only quality I respect." The room erupted in whispers. Phones came out. People started recording. Within minutes, the challenge was on social media. Within an hour, it was trending worldwide. Within a day, every news channel was covering the story of the billionaire CEO who would marry anyone who beat her at chess. The challengers came in waves. First, the arrogant young executives from her own company. Victoria destroyed them in under 20 moves each. Then came professional players who thought they could win easy money. She beat them too. Chess masters flew in from other countries. Victoria played them all and won every single game. She gave interviews where reporters asked if she was really serious about marrying a stranger. "I keep my promises," she said coldly. "But nobody will beat me. This is not arrogance. This is fact." 3 floors below Victoria's penthouse office, Marcus Webb pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway. It was 2 in the morning and the building was quiet except for the hum of computers and air conditioning. Marcus had worked as a night janitor at Morrison Technologies for 3 years. He was 28 years old and invisible to almost everyone who worked there. During the day shift change, executives rushed past him without making eye contact. To them, he was just part of the furniture. Just another service worker who cleaned up their messes and emptied their trash. Marcus did not mind being invisible. He had learned long ago that quiet people saw more than loud ones. He had heard about Victoria's chess challenge from the other janitors. They thought it was hilarious. "Rich people are crazy," his coworker Danny had said while laughing. "Imagine marrying someone just because they beat you at a board game." Marcus had said nothing. He had learned chess from his grandfather, a quiet man who had taught him that the game was about seeing patterns that others missed. His grandfather had been a porter at a train station for 40 years. Nobody had known he could solve chess puzzles that stumped masters. He had taught Marcus that intelligence and wisdom were not the same as success and wealth. Marcus pushed his cart into Victoria's office suite. The lights were motion-activated and they flickered on as he entered. He had cleaned this office 1,000 times. He knew where she kept her expensive pens and her collection of first-edition books. He knew she worked until midnight most nights and survived on black coffee and mineral water. Tonight there was a chess set on her desk. The pieces were arranged in the middle of a game. Marcus recognized it immediately as a puzzle. His grandfather had shown him this exact position years ago. It was a tricky endgame that looked impossible but had a beautiful solution. Marcus knew he should not touch anything on her desk. That was the first rule of janitorial work, but his hands moved before his brain could stop them. He picked up the white knight and moved it to a square that looked completely wrong. Then he stepped back and continued cleaning. The solution was called the Arabian Mate. The knight and rook worked together to trap the king in a corner. Most people never saw it coming because the knight move looked like a mistake. But 2 moves later, the king would have nowhere to run. Marcus finished cleaning and moved on to the next office. He forgot about the chess puzzle. He had more important things to think about. His younger sister Katie was in her 2nd year at community college and struggling with tuition payments. His mother needed a surgery that insurance would not fully cover. Marcus worked 60 hours a week, and every dollar went to keeping his family afloat. The next morning, Victoria returned to her office early. She always arrived before sunrise to get work done before meetings started. She sat at her desk with her coffee and stared at the chessboard. The puzzle was solved. The piece had been moved to the exact right square. Victoria felt ice run down her spine. She had been working on that puzzle for 3 days. She had tried every combination she could think of. Whoever solved it had seen something she had missed. That almost never happened. She called building security. "Send me the footage from my office last night," she demanded. "I need to know who was in here." 20 minutes later, she watched the video of Marcus Webb solving her puzzle in under 30 seconds. She watched him study the board, tilt his head slightly, and make the move without hesitation. Then he had simply continued cleaning as if he had not just done something that had stumped her for days. Victoria made a call to human resources. "I need the file on one of the janitors," she said. "Marcus Webb. I want everything. Employment history, background check, education records, everything." The file arrived within the hour. Victoria read it carefully. High school graduate. Attended State University as a philosophy major but dropped out in his 2nd year. No disciplinary issues. Perfect attendance record. 3 years with the company. Lived in a modest apartment in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing in the file explained how he could solve complex chess puzzles. Victoria made another call. "Send Marcus Webb to my office today at noon," she instructed.
"Tell him he is not in trouble."
"I just want to talk to him." Marcus received the message during his lunch break. His supervisor looked worried. "The CEO wants to see you, man," Danny said. "What did you do?" Marcus honestly had no idea. He spent the rest of his shift nervous and confused. Had someone seen him touch the chess set? Was he about to be fired for violating company policy? At exactly noon, Marcus knocked on Victoria's office door. "Come in," her voice called from inside. Marcus entered and saw Victoria sitting behind her enormous desk. She looked exactly like she did in the company newsletters. Cold, beautiful, and intimidating. Her eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. "You solved my chess problem," she said without preamble. "How?" Marcus felt his mouth go dry. "I am sorry, ma'am. I should not have touched anything on your desk. I was not thinking." "I did not ask for an apology," Victoria interrupted. "I asked how you solved it. That puzzle has been bothering me for 3 days. Marcus relaxed slightly. "My grandfather taught me chess. That position is called Arabian Mate. The knight move looks wrong, but it traps the king with the rook." Victoria leaned back in her chair. Her expression was unreadable. "You play chess," she said. "It was not a question. I used to, ma'am." "I do not have much time anymore." Victoria's eyes narrowed. She was thinking about something. Marcus could see calculations happening behind those sharp eyes. "My challenge is still open," she said slowly. "Anyone who beats me at chess wins my hand in marriage. Would you like to try?" Marcus almost laughed, but stopped himself when he realized she was serious. "Ma'am, I am a janitor. I clean toilets and empty trash." "I cannot marry you." "Why not?" Victoria asked. "Are you already married?" "No, but this is crazy. Your challenge was for important people. CEOs and chess masters, not people like me. My challenge was for anyone," Victoria corrected. "I did not specify requirements beyond beating me at chess, so I will ask again. Would you like to try?" Marcus thought about his sister's tuition bill sitting unpaid on his kitchen counter. He thought about his mother waiting for surgery that kept getting postponed. He thought about his grandfather who had taught him that when life offered you a door, you walked through it even if you did not know what was on the other side. "Okay," he said quietly. "I will play you." The news hit on a Monday morning. A hostile takeover attempt. Gregory Stone, one of the most ruthless corporate raiders in America, had announced his intention to acquire Morrison Technologies. He had been quietly buying up shares for months. Now he had enough to force a vote. The board of directors would have to decide whether to accept his offer or fight back. Gregory Stone was Victoria's worst nightmare. He had been her mentor 15 years ago when she was just starting out. He had taught her everything about business. Then she had left his company to start her own. He had never forgiven her for that. He called it betrayal. She called it ambition. Now he wanted to take everything she had built. Not because he needed another company. He had dozens. He wanted Morrison Technologies because it was hers. This was personal. This was revenge. Victoria barely slept for the next week. She worked 20-hour days trying to organize a defense. She called in favors from investors. She met with lawyers and financial advisors. She gave interviews claiming the company was not for sale. But Stone had resources she could not match. He was offering stockholders twice what their shares were worth. It was an offer most of them could not refuse. Marcus watched Victoria deteriorate. She stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She lived on coffee and stress. Her eyes developed dark circles. Her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. She snapped at employees and board members. The pressure was crushing her. One night Marcus found her in her study at 3 a.m. Papers were scattered everywhere. Financial reports and legal documents covered every surface. Victoria was sitting at her desk with her head in her hands. "You should sleep," Marcus said from the doorway. "I cannot," Victoria replied without looking up. "If I sleep, Stone wins. If I take my eyes off this for 1 second, he will find a way in." Marcus walked into the study and started picking up papers. "What are you doing?" Victoria asked sharply. "Helping," Marcus said. "Tell me what you need." "You cannot help," Victoria said. Her voice was hollow. "This is corporate finance. Hostile takeovers. Shareholder value. You do not understand any of this." "You are right," Marcus agreed. "I do not understand corporate finance. But I understand chess. And this is just a chess game with higher stakes. Stone is making moves. You need to respond. So tell me what moves he has made and we will figure out the response together." Victoria looked at him like he was crazy. Then something shifted in her expression. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe she was just tired of fighting alone. "Okay," she said. "Sit down." For the next hour, Victoria explained the situation. Stone had 40% of the shares. He needed 51% to win. The remaining shares were divided among small investors and institutional holders. Stone was offering them a premium. Most would sell. Victoria was trying to find friendly investors who would buy shares to block him. But friendly investors wanted guarantees. They wanted to know the company would remain profitable. They wanted to know Victoria would not make risky decisions. The problem was Morrison Technologies had been aggressive lately. Victoria had pushed for expansion into new markets. She had invested heavily in research and development. These were long-term strategies that would pay off in 5 or 10 years. But in the short term, they made the balance sheet look risky. Investors were nervous. "So Stone is betting that people will choose quick money over long-term value," Marcus said. "Yes," Victoria confirmed. "He is offering them certainty." "I'm offering them a gamble." Marcus thought about it. "What if you change the narrative? Right now, everyone is focused on the money. What if you make it about something else, like what Victoria asked? Like the people," Marcus said. "How many people work for Morrison Technologies?" "Almost 30,000, Victoria answered. "And if Stone takes over, what happens to them?" Victoria's expression darkened. "He will cut at least a third of them. Maybe more. He does not care about people. He cares about profit margins. That is how he operates. He will gut the company, sell off the parts he does not want, and fire everyone who is not essential." "So tell people that," Marcus urged. "Make this about more than stock prices. Make it about families. Make it about the 30,000 people who will lose their jobs if Stone wins. Make the investors see that they are not just buying shares. They are deciding the fate of real human beings." Victoria shook her head. "That is not how corporate takeovers work. Investors do not care about employees. They care about returns," maybe Marcus said. "But voters care, and public opinion matters. If you can turn public sentiment against Stone, the investors who are on the fence might think twice. Nobody wants to be seen as the villain who destroyed 30,000 jobs for profit." Victoria stared at Marcus. It was a chess move, not the obvious move of matching Stone's financial offer. A different move, an unexpected angle of attack. Over the next days, Victoria changed her strategy. She stopped fighting Stone in boardrooms and started fighting him in the press. She gave interviews talking about the employees at Morrison Technologies. She brought reporters to meet the engineers and designers and factory workers. She showed them the real people whose lives hung in the balance. She went on television and called Stone out directly. "This is not about business," she said. "This is about ego. Gregory Stone cannot stand that I built something without him. So now he wants to destroy it. If he cared about this company, he would build something of his own instead of stealing from others." The story changed. Suddenly, the takeover was not just financial news. It was a human interest story. Employees started speaking out. They told reporters what Morrison Technologies meant to them, how Victoria had created a company culture that valued innovation and creativity, how she had profit-sharing programs that made regular employees wealthy, how losing this company would devastate not just them but their families and communities. Stone tried to respond, but he was not good at public relations. He was used to operating in shadows. When reporters asked him about the job cuts, he gave cold corporate answers about efficiency and shareholder value. He looked exactly like what he was, a rich man trying to get richer at the expense of working people. The tide started to turn. Some investors who had been ready to sell reconsidered. Union pension funds that held shares announced they would not sell to Stone. Environmental groups pointed out that Morrison Technologies had strong sustainability programs that Stone would likely eliminate, but it was not enough. Stone still had momentum. He had money and he had shares. Victoria needed something more. She needed a game-changing move. Marcus found her in the study again late one night. She was staring at a chessboard but not really seeing it. "I'm going to lose," she said quietly. "I have played every move I can think of. Stone has more pieces. I cannot win." Marcus sat down across from her. "Do you remember when we played our first game? You lost because you did not see the trap I was setting. You were so focused on attacking that you did not see the defense." "This is not a game, Marcus," Victoria said. "This is my life. Everything I built," "I know," Marcus said gently. "But the principle is the same. You are so focused on defending against Stone's attack that you are not seeing the real game. Stone does not want your company. He wants to beat you. He wants revenge. So what if you take that away from him?" "How?" Victoria asked. "By not caring if you lose," Marcus said. "I mean, obviously you care. But what if you make him understand that even if he wins, he does not really win? What if you poison the victory?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "Announce that if Stone takes over, you will start a new company," Marcus explained. "Take your best people with you. Your top engineers and designers. They are loyal to you, not to Morrison Technologies. Without them, the company is just buildings and patents. Stone will own an empty shell. He will have paid billions for nothing." Victoria leaned back. "That could work. But it would be incredibly risky, starting over from nothing. You did it once," Marcus reminded her. "You can do it again. And this time you would not be alone." Their eyes met across the chessboard. Victoria understood what he was offering. Support, partnership, someone to share the burden with. The next day, Victoria made the announcement. "If this takeover succeeds," she told the press, "I will resign immediately and start a new company. I have already secured funding. I have already spoken to key employees, and most have agreed to come with me. Gregory Stone can buy Morrison Technologies, but he will be buying an empty building. The real value of this company is the people, and the people are coming with me." It was a nuclear option, scorched earth. If Victoria could not have her company, then she would make sure Stone got nothing from taking it. Stone was furious. He called the move illegal and threatened lawsuits. But legally, there was nothing he could do. Employees could quit whenever they wanted. Victoria could start a new company. None of that was against the law. More importantly, the move changed the math. Investors suddenly realized they might be buying a company with no employees and no future. The stock price started to fall. Some shareholders who had committed to Stone started backing out. The board of directors met for an emergency session. They debated for 6 hours. Finally, they voted. By a narrow margin, they rejected Stone's offer. Morrison Technologies would remain independent. Victoria had won. Barely. By the smallest margin possible. But she had won. When she came home that night, Marcus was waiting. 5 years passed like a beautiful dream. Victoria and Marcus built a life together that neither had imagined possible. The mansion that had once felt like a museum became a home full of warmth and laughter. They filled the empty rooms with purpose and meaning. One wing became a library that was open to the public on weekends. People from the community came to read and study. Marcus ran chess tournaments there every month. Kids who had never touched a chess piece became passionate players. Some went on to compete in national tournaments. Marcus was proud of every single one of them. Another wing became an artist residency program. Victoria had discovered she loved art, but had only ever collected it. Now she helped create it by supporting young artists who could not afford studio space. Painters and sculptors and photographers lived and worked in the mansion for months at a time. The walls that had once displayed expensive pieces now showed works in progress. Raw and real and alive, Victoria changed Morrison Technologies in fundamental ways. She stepped back from daily operations and appointed a management team she trusted. She remained as CEO, but the one-year anniversary was approaching fast. According to their contract, Marcus and Victoria would divorce after 12 months. Marcus would receive his settlement of $5 million and they would go their separate ways. The date loomed over them like a storm cloud that neither wanted to acknowledge. Victoria buried herself in work again. Not because the company needed it, but because she did not know how to face what was coming. She had fallen in love with Marcus, but the contract was clear. This was supposed to be temporary, a business arrangement. She had no right to expect more. Marcus noticed her withdrawal. She stopped asking him to dinner. She stopped playing chess with him in the evenings. She was building her walls back up and he did not know how to stop her. He had fallen for her too. Somewhere between chess games and family dinners and late-night conversations, Victoria had become the most important person in his life. But he had signed a contract. He had agreed to walk away after 1 year. She was a billionaire CEO, he was a janitor. What could he possibly offer her that she could not buy? 2 weeks before the anniversary, Marcus received a call from Victoria's lawyers. They wanted to meet to finalize the divorce paperwork. Marcus agreed. What else could he do? He had known from the beginning this was how it would end. He started packing his belongings. He did not have much more than when he had arrived. Some clothes and books. Everything else belonged to the house. He found the note Victoria had written him months ago thanking him for the fruit. He had kept it in his desk drawer. He put it in his pocket. Victoria saw the suitcases in his room when she walked past one evening. Her heart dropped. He was already packing, already preparing to leave. Of course he was. That was the deal. She had no right to feel betrayed, but she did anyway. That night she could not sleep. She sat in her study staring at the chessboard. They had left a game unfinished several days ago. She could not remember whose turn it was. She picked up a piece and put it down in the same spot. Nothing had changed, but everything had changed. Marcus could not sleep either. He walked through the mansion one last time, trying to memorize it. Not because he would miss the expensive furniture or the art or the luxury. He would miss the library where they had talked about books. He would miss the dining room where they had shared meals. He would miss the study where they had played chess. He would miss Victoria. They ran into each other in the library at 2 a.m. Both had come seeking comfort in books and found each other instead. Could not sleep, Victoria asked. Her voice was carefully neutral. No, Marcus admitted. You either apparently. They sat in opposite chairs like strangers again. The comfortable intimacy they had built over months had evaporated in the face of the approaching deadline. I suppose we should discuss logistics, Victoria said, her CEO voice firmly in place. The lawyers have prepared all the paperwork. You will receive your settlement as agreed. I have arranged for a moving company to help you relocate wherever you want to go. Right, Marcus said. That is very efficient. Victoria flinched at the word efficient, like their relationship was just another business transaction. But was that not exactly what it was supposed to be? She had no one to blame but herself. Marcus continued. I found an apartment. Small place, but it will work. My sister graduates next year thanks to you. My mother's surgery went well. I am grateful for everything. The word grateful hit Victoria like a knife. Grateful. Like she had done him a favor. Like this year had meant nothing more than a transaction. But what had she expected? She had treated this marriage as a contract from day one. Why would he see it as anything else? There was a long silence. Then Marcus said something he had been holding back. I am going to miss this. The chess games. The conversations. Getting to know you. Victoria's careful control cracked slightly. I will miss it too. More than I thought I would. Another silence. They were both dancing around what they actually wanted to say. Both too afraid of rejection, to be honest. Finally, Victoria said, "You should know that this year changed me. You changed me. I was so focused on success and achievement that I forgot about everything else. You reminded me what matters. People and connection and actually living life instead of just working." Marcus nodded. "You changed me too. I thought I understood the world. Poor people good, rich people bad. Simple formula. But you showed me it is more complicated. Wealth does not make you evil. Loneliness does not care about your bank account. Everyone is just trying to find meaning in their own way." Victoria felt tears threatening again. "Why does this feel like goodbye?" "We still have 2 weeks, because we are already leaving," Marcus said quietly. "You are building your walls back up. I am packing my things. We are preparing for the end instead of being present for what is left." Victoria stood up abruptly. "I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to just be. I have spent my entire life planning ahead, strategizing, preparing for every outcome. But I do not know how to prepare for losing you." The words hung in the air. Victoria realized what she had said. She had admitted too much, revealed too much. Marcus stared at her. "Losing me," he repeated. "Victoria, this was always the plan. You do not lose something that was never meant to stay." "But I want you to stay," Victoria said. Her voice broke. "I know that is not part of the contract. I know I have no right to ask. But I do not want you to leave. These 12 months have been the best months of my life. Not because of anything dramatic, just because you were here. Because I did not have to be alone." Marcus stood slowly. "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" "I am saying I love you," Victoria said. The words came out in a rush. "I know this started as a business arrangement. I know you probably do not feel the same way. But I had to tell you. I love you, Marcus. I love your wisdom and your kindness and the way you see the world. I love the way you make me want to be better. I love that you treat me like a person instead of a prize. I love you and I do not want this to end." Marcus crossed the room in 3 steps. He took Victoria's face in his hands and kissed her. It was their first kiss. Their wedding had not included one. For a moment, Victoria was too shocked to respond. Then she kissed him back with months of pent-up emotion. When they finally broke apart, Marcus was smiling. "I have been in love with you for 6 months. I was terrified to tell you because I thought you just saw this as a business deal. I thought I was just another employee. Another person who worked for you. You are not an employee," Victoria said. "You are my partner, my equal. The person who saved me from myself." They held each other in the library, surrounded by books and moonlight. Outside the window, the lake reflected stars. Everything felt possible again, but Marcus pulled back slightly. "We need to be sure about this. I do not want you to make this decision based on fear of being alone. I do not want to be the safe choice because the alternative is loneliness." "You are not the safe choice," Victoria said. "You are the brave choice. Being with you means admitting I need someone. It means being vulnerable. It means trusting another person with my heart. That is the scariest thing I have ever done." Marcus smiled. "Scarier than almost losing your company." "Much scarier," Victoria confirmed. "I can rebuild a company. I do not know if I can rebuild a broken heart. Then we will not break it," Marcus promised. "We will take care of it together." They spent the rest of the night talking about what came next. They agreed to start over, not to end the contract, but to rewrite it, this time as a real marriage. Not a business arrangement, but a partnership based on love and respect and genuine commitment. The next morning, Victoria called her lawyers. "Tear up the divorce papers," she instructed. "We are staying married." The lead lawyer sounded confused. "Ma'am, is this about the settlement?" "We can renegotiate terms, no," Victoria said. "This is not about money. This is about love. I am staying married to my husband because I want to. Now please remove the expiration date from our marriage contract and make this permanent." There was a long pause. Then the lawyer said something he had never said to Victoria before. "Congratulations, Mrs. Morris, and I hope you will be very happy." Victoria hung up and realized she was already happy. Happier than she had been in years. Maybe happier than she had ever been. Marcus quit his janitorial job that day. Not because Victoria asked him to, but because he was ready for something new. He enrolled in graduate school to finish his philosophy degree. He continued volunteering at the community center teaching chess. He started a non-profit to help underprivileged kids get into college. Victoria funded it proudly. They had a second wedding. A real one this time, with guests and flowers and music. Marcus's mother cried happy tears. Victoria's parents came and her father walked her down the aisle. Katie was the maid of honor. Danny was the best man and gave a speech about how love can happen in the most unexpected ways. When the judge asked if they took each other as husband and wife, they both said "I do" with genuine joy. And when he said "you may kiss," Marcus kissed Victoria like he meant it, like she was the most precious thing in his world. The reception was held at the mansion, but they had transformed it. No longer cold and empty, but full of people and laughter and life. Employees from Morrison Technologies danced with kids from the community center. Board members talked with Marcus's family. It was a mixing of worlds that should not have worked, but somehow did. During their first dance, Victoria looked up at Marcus. After the crisis passed, something fundamental had shifted between Victoria and Marcus. They were no longer two strangers living in the same house. They were partners who had fought a battle together and won. Victoria started seeing Marcus differently. Not as the janitor who had embarrassed her or the husband she was forced to accept. She saw someone with wisdom that had nothing to do with education or money. Marcus had helped her save her company using simple logic and chess principles. He had not tried to take credit or demand recognition. He had just offered help when she needed it. That kind of selflessness was foreign to Victoria. Everyone in her world wanted something. Position or power or money. Marcus seemed to want nothing except to be useful. She started asking his opinion on other matters. At first, small things. What he thought about a new marketing campaign or a hiring decision. Marcus always gave honest answers. He did not tell her what she wanted to hear. He told her what he actually thought. Sometimes his perspective was completely different from hers. He saw things from the angle of regular employees rather than executives. His insights were valuable in ways Victoria had not expected. One evening, they were having dinner together. This had become a regular thing now. They ate in the smaller dining room and talked about their days. Victoria told him about a board meeting where directors had argued for 3 hours about nothing important. Why did they do that? Marcus asked. Argue about nothing. Because they feel like they have to justify their positions, Victoria explained. If they just agree with me, then what are they being paid for? So they argue just to show they are thinking independently, even when there is nothing to argue about. That sounds exhausting, Marcus said. It is, Victoria agreed. Sometimes I think running a company would be easier if I could just make decisions without having to convince 20 people first. But that is the point, Marcus said. You do not want to make all decisions alone. You need people to check you. To point out things you miss. That is what my grandfather always said about chess. The best players are the ones who can see their own mistakes before making them. But humans have blind spots. We need other perspectives. Victoria considered this. She had always seen the board of directors as an obstacle. People she had to manage and manipulate. What if she thought of them as partners instead? People who could help her see her blind spots. It was a small shift in thinking, but it changed how she approached meetings. She also started spending less time at the office. For years, Victoria had worked 70 or 80 hours a week. Work had been her entire identity. But after almost losing the company, she realized something. If she died tomorrow, Morrison Technologies would continue. Someone else would run it. The company did not actually need her every minute of every day. So she started leaving at reasonable hours. She started taking Sundays off completely. At first, she did not know what to do with free time. She had forgotten how to relax. Marcus helped her remember. He took her to a community center where he volunteered teaching chess to kids. Victoria watched him work with children from poor neighborhoods. He was patient and encouraging. He made chess fun instead of competitive. The kids loved him. They called him Mr. Webb and showed off their newest moves with pride. One little girl, maybe 9 years old, beat Marcus in a game. She jumped up and down cheering. You let her win, Victoria said quietly after the girl ran off to tell her friends. No, Marcus said. She earned that win. I played my best. She is getting better. You could have beaten her easily, Victoria observed. Probably Marcus agreed. But that is not the point. The point is to help her love the game. If I crush her every time, she will stop trying. But if she wins sometimes, she will keep coming back. And eventually she will be good enough that I will not have to let her win. Victoria thought about all the people she had crushed over the years. Competitors and employees and anyone who had challenged her. She had thought that proving her dominance was important. But maybe she had just been teaching people not to try. Marcus also introduced her to his family. Victoria had met his mother and sister briefly at the wedding, but had not spent real time with them. Now Marcus invited them to dinner at the mansion. His mother Claire was a kind woman with tired eyes. His sister Katie was studying nursing at community college. They were both nervous about coming to such a fancy house. "You have a beautiful home," Katie said politely while looking around at the expensive art and furniture. "It is too big," Victoria admitted. "I bought it because I could, not because I needed it. Most of the rooms are empty." Claire looked at Victoria with understanding. "My late husband used to say that success is only meaningful if you have people to share it with. He was a simple man, but he was right about that." Victoria felt something tighten in her chest. Marcus's family had so little compared to her. But they had each other. They had love and connection. What did Victoria have? Money and an empty house. During dinner, Katie talked about her nursing classes, how she wanted to help people but worried about student debt, how expensive medical school was if she wanted to become a doctor. Victoria listened and made a decision. "How much do you owe?" Katie asked Victoria. "For school," Katie said. "About 30,000 so far. I will probably graduate with 60,000 in debt. It is scary, but I do not have a choice. I cannot become a nurse without the degree." "What if I paid it?" Victoria said. The table went quiet. Katie stared at her. Claire looked shocked. Marcus looked concerned. "Why would you do that?" Katie asked suspiciously. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Victoria said. "I have money I will never spend. You have debt that will take years to pay off. This is not charity. This is just logic. Money should go where it does the most good." Katie's eyes filled with tears. "I cannot accept that. It is too much." "Yes, you can," Victoria said firmly. "You are family. Family helps each other. That is what I am learning anyway." Marcus reached over and squeezed Victoria's hand under the table. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. He was proud of her. After that night, Victoria started thinking differently about wealth. She had always measured success by how much money she made. The bigger the number, the better. But money sitting in accounts did nothing. It was just numbers on a screen. What mattered was what you did with it. She started a scholarship program at Morrison Technologies for children of employees. She funded community programs in poor neighborhoods. She donated to hospitals and schools, not for publicity or tax breaks, just because she could and because it felt right. Marcus watched these changes with quiet pride. He had not tried to change Victoria. He had just shown her a different way of seeing the world. She had changed herself. They spent more evenings together now. Playing chess, yes, but also just talking. Victoria told Marcus about her childhood, how her parents had pushed her relentlessly, how she had never felt good enough, how success had become an addiction. She kept achieving more and more, but it never filled the empty space inside. Marcus told her about his father, how he had worked construction jobs that destroyed his body, how he had never complained, how he had taught Marcus that dignity came from doing honest work, not from having an important title. How his death had forced Marcus to grow up too fast. One night, Victoria asked the question she had been wondering about for months. "Why did you say yes to this marriage? You could have taken the buyout money and walked away. Why did you agree to actually marry me?" Marcus thought about his answer. Honestly, at first it was just about the money. My family needed help. This was a way to help them. But then I met you and I saw someone who was brilliant and successful but also lonely. I thought maybe I could help with that too. "Why would you want to help me?" Victoria asked. "I was terrible to you. I looked down on you. I thought you were nobody." Marcus smiled. "My grandfather used to say that everyone is fighting battles you cannot see. You were fighting battles too. You had just won so many battles that you forgot how to stop fighting. I thought maybe you needed someone who was not fighting with you. Someone who was fighting for you instead." Victoria felt tears on her face. She could not remember the last time she had cried. She had built walls so high and so thick that feelings could not get through, but somehow Marcus had found a door. He moved closer and wiped her tears away. She leaned into him, and for the first time in her adult life, Victoria Morrison let someone see her vulnerable, really vulnerable. Not the controlled vulnerability she showed in therapy, or the calculated weakness she showed in negotiations. Real vulnerability. Real human emotion. They sat like that for a long time, Marcus holding Victoria while she cried out years of pressure and loneliness and fear. When she finally stopped, she felt lighter, like she had been carrying a weight she did not know was there. "Thank you," she whispered. "For seeing me. For not giving up on me," Marcus smiled. "That is what partners do. They see each other. The good and the bad, and they stay anyway." Victoria realized something in that moment. She had fallen in love with Marcus. Not because of some dramatic moment or grand gesture. Love had grown quietly over months of chess games and conversations and small kindnesses. She loved him for his wisdom and his patience and his ability to see value in people that others overlooked. But she was terrified to say it. What if he did not feel the same way? What if he was just honoring the contract? What if she had misread everything? The change started with chess. Victoria had a board set up in her study, and one evening Marcus passed by and saw her working through a puzzle. He paused in the doorway. She was muttering to herself and moving pieces around, trying different combinations. "That one does not work," Marcus said quietly. "You are trying to force the attack, but the defense is too strong." Victoria's head snapped up. She had not realized anyone was watching. "What do you mean?" she asked. Marcus walked into the study hesitantly. "May I?" He gestured to the board. Victoria nodded. She was curious now. Marcus studied the position for maybe 30 seconds, then moved a pawn. It looked like nothing. A quiet move that did not attack anything or defend anything obvious. "You need to prepare the ground first," Marcus explained. "Chess is not about attacking right away. It is about creating weaknesses in your opponent's position. Then the attack comes naturally." Victoria looked at the board with new eyes. She saw it now. The pawn move restricted her opponent's pieces. 2 moves later, the position would collapse. She had been so focused on finding the aggressive solution that she had missed the quiet one. "How did you learn to see like that?" Victoria asked. "My grandfather Marcus said. He taught me that the best moves are usually the ones that do not look impressive. Flashy moves get attention, but quiet moves win games." Victoria gestured to the chair across from her. "Show me." They spent the next hour going through chess positions. Victoria was stunned by how much Marcus knew. He was not just a casual player. He understood chess at a deep level. Strategy and tactics, yes, but also the psychology of the game. How to read an opponent. How to create pressure. How to turn small advantages into big ones. "Why did you never play competitively?" Victoria asked. "You could have been a master," Marcus shrugged. "My grandfather played in parks and train stations. He would set up a board and anyone could challenge him. He usually won, but he never cared about ratings or tournaments. He said chess was supposed to be fun. Once you make it about winning trophies, it stops being fun." Victoria had never thought about chess as fun. For her, it had always been about proving she was smarter than everyone else. It was another achievement to put on her resume. "Another way to show the world she was the best. We should play," Marcus said. "A real game. No pressure. Just for fun." Victoria agreed. They set up the board and began. This time, Victoria did not make the mistake of underestimating Marcus. She played carefully and seriously. The game lasted over an hour. Every move was contested. Every piece mattered. In the end, Marcus won, but barely. Victoria had pushed him harder than anyone had in years. "Again," Victoria demanded. They played again, and again. Over the next weeks, playing chess became their evening routine. After Victoria came home from work and after Marcus finished his shift, they would meet in the study and play. Sometimes they talked during the games. Sometimes they played in comfortable silence. Victoria started winning about half the games. She learned from Marcus's style. The quiet moves. The patience. The ability to see 3 or 4 moves ahead. Marcus learned from her too. Her tactical sharpness. Her ability to calculate complex positions. They made each other better. The chess games led to conversations. Real conversations. Not just polite words exchanged in passing. Victoria told Marcus about the pressure of running a company. How every decision affected thousands of jobs. How one wrong move could destroy everything she had built. How exhausting it was to never show weakness. Marcus told Victoria about growing up poor. How his family had never had enough money, but had always had enough love. How his father had taught him that a man's worth was not measured by his bank account, but by how he treated people. How his mother had worked herself to exhaustion to give her children opportunities she never had. They came from completely different worlds, but they started to understand each other. Victoria began to see that Marcus's quiet dignity was not weakness. It was strength of a kind she had never developed. Marcus began to see that Victoria's cold exterior was armor, protecting someone who had been hurt by getting exactly what she thought she wanted. One Saturday, Victoria did not go into the office. This was unusual. She always worked on Saturdays. Marcus found her in the garden sitting on a bench and staring at the lake. "Are you okay?" he asked. Victoria did not look at him. "I received a letter from my mother yesterday. She is sick. Cancer. She wanted me to know but said I did not have to come if I was too busy." The words were flat, but Marcus could hear the pain underneath. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "Nothing," Victoria said. "We have not spoken in 2 years." She made her choice. "I made mine." Marcus sat down next to her. "When my father died, I thought I would have more time. I kept planning to visit him, to thank him for everything. But I was always too busy with school or work. Then he was gone and I never got to say the things I needed to say." Victoria's hands were clenched in her lap. "What if she does not want to see me? What if it is too late to fix things? What if it is not?" Marcus said gently. "What if this is the chance you have been hoping for?" Victoria was quiet for a long time. Then she stood up. "Will you come with me? To see her?" "I do not think I can do it alone." Marcus was surprised. Victoria Morrison asking for help, admitting she needed someone. "Yes," he said. "Of course." They drove 3 hours to Victoria's childhood home. It was a nice house and a nice neighborhood, but nothing like Victoria's mansion. Her mother answered the door and her face went through a series of emotions. Surprise, confusion, hope, and fear. Victoria stood frozen on the doorstep. Her mother looked older and thinner than she remembered. Marcus gently touched Victoria's back, a small gesture of support. "Mom," Victoria said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I came," her mother started crying. She pulled Victoria into a hug, and Victoria stood stiff for a moment before her arms slowly came up to hug back. They stood like that for a long time while Marcus waited quietly. Inside, Victoria's mother made tea. She kept looking at Marcus with curiosity. Victoria introduced him as her husband, and her mother's eyebrows went up. "I read about that in the news," she said. "I thought it was some kind of publicity stunt." "It is complicated," Victoria said. "But it is real." "He is real." Over tea, Victoria and her mother talked. Carefully at first, like two people walking on ice. They talked about the cancer, about treatments and doctors. Then they talked about the years of silence. The fight that had driven them apart. All the things that had been left unsaid. Victoria's mother looked at Marcus. "Thank you for bringing her." "I did not think she would come. She needed to come," Marcus said. "Family is important, even when it is hard." Victoria looked at him with an expression he had never seen before. Gratitude mixed with something else. Something warmer. They stayed for dinner. Victoria's father came home from work, and there was another tearful reunion. They ate at a normal dining table in a normal dining room. The food was simple, pot roast and potatoes. Nothing fancy, but Victoria ate more than Marcus had ever seen her eat. On the drive home, Victoria was quiet. Then she said thank you for what Marcus asked. "For reminding me what matters," she said. "I built this huge, successful life, but I forgot about the people who made me who I am. I was so focused on proving them wrong that I lost sight of proving them right." "They were not wrong about everything," Marcus said. "You are amazing at what you do. But success without connection is just loneliness wearing expensive clothes." Victoria laughed. It was a real laugh, not the cold corporate laugh she used at meetings. "When did you become so wise?" she asked. "My grandfather," Marcus said with a smile. "He had a saying for everything." "What would he say about this situation?" Victoria asked. "About us," Marcus thought about it. "He would probably say that sometimes the best move is the one you did not see coming. Life is like chess that way. You think you know how the game will go. Then someone makes an unexpected move and suddenly everything is different." "Is that what I am to you?" Victoria asked. "An unexpected move," Marcus glanced at her. "You were supposed to be a 1-year contract, a way to help my family. But you are turning into something else. I am not sure what yet, but something else." Victoria did not respond, but she smiled slightly. It was progress. That night they played chess again. But halfway through the game, Victoria stopped and looked at Marcus. "I think I am starting to understand why your grandfather loved this game. It is not about winning. It is about the conversation. Every move is like speaking. Every response is like listening." "Exactly," Marcus said. "Chess is a dialogue. The best games are the ones where both players are saying something interesting." They finished the game. Victoria won, but barely. They shook hands across the board like old friends. The wedding happened on a cold Tuesday morning in October. No guests, no flowers, no music. Just Victoria and Marcus standing in front of a judge in a courthouse that smelled like old paper and broken promises. Victoria wore a simple black dress that probably cost thousands of dollars but looked like something you would wear to a funeral. Marcus wore the same dress shirt from the chess game and a tie that Danny had lent him. The ceremony took 7 minutes. The judge read the legal requirements in a bored voice. Victoria said I do like she was signing a business contract. Marcus said I do like he was accepting a job he did not want. They did not kiss. They barely looked at each other. The judge pronounced them married and Victoria walked out immediately. Her lawyers had already prepared all the paperwork. Marcus signed where they told him to sign. "Congratulations, Mrs. Morrison," one of the lawyers said with barely hidden sarcasm. Victoria's expression could have frozen fire. She was not Mrs. Morrison. She was still Victoria Morrison, CEO. This marriage was just a legal formality that would be erased in 12 months. Marcus moved into Victoria's mansion the next day. He brought 2 suitcases and a box of books. Everything he owned fit in the back of Danny's truck. The mansion had 23 rooms spread across 8,000 square feet. It sat on 5 acres of landscaped property with a view of the lake. Marcus had never seen a private home this large. It looked like a hotel. A woman in a gray suit met him at the door. "I am Helen, the house manager," she said. "Miss Morrison has assigned you the East Wing. You have a bedroom, bathroom, and sitting room. Meals are served in the main dining room at 7 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. If you need anything, use the intercom system. Here are your keys and access codes." She handed him a folder and walked away before he could ask any questions. Marcus found his assigned rooms. They were bigger than his entire apartment had been. The bed was large enough for 4 people. The bathroom had heated floors and a shower with 6 different shower heads. The sitting room had a fireplace and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the garden. Marcus sat on the bed and felt completely out of place. This was not his life. This was not his world. He was a janitor pretending to be something he was not. Victoria had assigned herself the West Wing. She made it clear through Helen that they would maintain separate schedules and separate lives. Marcus almost never saw her. She left for work before sunrise and returned after dark. When they did pass in the hallways, she looked through him like he was invisible, the same way executives at Morrison Technologies had looked through him when he was cleaning their offices. The first week, Marcus tried to follow the meal schedule. He sat alone in the enormous dining room while a chef he never met prepared food in a kitchen he was not allowed to enter. The meals were elaborate, complicated dishes with French names that Marcus could not pronounce. He ate in silence while staff moved around him like ghosts. After a week, he stopped going to the dining room. He started making his own meals in the small kitchenette in his wing. Simple food that reminded him of home, sandwiches and soup and pasta. Helen looked disapproved but said nothing. Marcus also refused to quit his job. Victoria's lawyers had told him he did not need to work anymore. He was technically a millionaire now with access to accounts that held more money than he could imagine. But Marcus went back to Morrison Technologies and asked for his janitorial position back. His supervisor thought he was insane. "Dude, you married the CEO. You do not need to clean toilets anymore," but Marcus did need it. He needed something real in his life, something that made sense. Pushing a mop and emptying trash cans made sense. Living in a mansion and eating expensive food he did not want did not make sense. Victoria found out he was still working when she saw him in the hallway at 2 in the morning. She had been working late and was returning to her office for files she had forgotten. She stopped dead when she saw Marcus pushing his cleaning cart past her door. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "Working," Marcus replied. He kept moving. "You do not need to work," Victoria said. Her voice was sharp. "You have access to enough money to never work again. Do you understand how this looks?" The CEO's husband working as a janitor in her building. Marcus stopped and looked at her. This was the first real conversation they had had since the wedding. "I am not taking money I have not earned," he said. "I am a janitor. That is what I do. You are my husband now," Victoria said. The word husband came out like she was spitting poison. "You could do anything. You could go back to school. You could start a business. You could travel. Anything except this. Why do you care?" Marcus asked. "You made it clear this marriage means nothing. I'm just a contract to you. So let me live my life the way I want." They stared at each other in the empty hallway. Victoria opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had no answer. She turned and walked away. Her heels clicked against the marble floor until she disappeared around a corner. Marcus went back to cleaning. But something had shifted. For the first time, Victoria had actually looked at him, actually seen him, not as the janitor who had embarrassed her, not as the husband she was forced to accept, just as a person who confused her. The second month was quieter. Victoria stopped trying to change Marcus's schedule. He worked his night shifts and slept during the mornings. She worked her corporate job and stayed in her office until late. They existed in the same house like two strangers waiting for a train, but slowly, in small ways, they began to notice each other. Victoria started finding books missing from her library, first editions that she had collected but never read. Marcus was borrowing them and actually reading them. He left them carefully back in place, but Victoria could tell they had been moved. Someone was finally appreciating her collection. Marcus started noticing that Victoria never ate breakfast. She survived on black coffee and worked through lunch most days. He started leaving fresh fruit in the main kitchen with a note. "You should eat something." Victoria never acknowledged the notes, but the fruit always disappeared. One evening, Marcus was in the mansion's library reading when Victoria came home early. She stopped in the doorway and stared at him. He was curled up in her favorite chair reading a first edition of The Old Man and the Sea. "You like Hemingway," she said. It was not really a question. Marcus looked up. "My grandfather gave me a copy when I was 12. This is a better edition than mine, though." Victoria walked into the library. She poured herself a drink from the bar and sat in the chair across from him. "Why did your grandfather teach you chess?" she asked. Marcus closed the book carefully. "He wanted me to learn how to think. He said most people just react to life. Chess teaches you to think 3 moves ahead, to see patterns, to understand that every choice has consequences." "Smart man," Victoria said. She took a sip of her drink. "Why did you drop out of college?" The question was direct and personal. Marcus considered not answering. But there was something different in Victoria's voice tonight. She sounded curious rather than judgmental. "My father died," Marcus said simply. "He had a heart attack at work. No warning. One day he was fine and the next day he was gone. My mother fell apart. My sister was still in high school. Someone needed to take care of them. College seemed less important than keeping my family together." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "I am sorry," she said. Her voice was softer than Marcus had ever heard it. "It was a long time ago," Marcus replied. "I do not regret it." "Family matters more than a degree, does it?" Victoria asked. She was staring into her drink like it held answers. "I have 3 degrees. I have more money and success than my parents ever dreamed of. But I have not spoken to them in 2 years. We had a fight about the company. They said I was turning into someone cold and cruel. I told them they were jealous of my success. Neither of us apologized." Marcus did not know what to say. He was seeing a different side of Victoria. Not the Ice Queen CEO, but someone who was lonely and did not know how to admit it. "You could call them," Marcus suggested. "Pride is expensive. Sometimes too expensive." Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Easy for you to say. You do not know my parents. They had expectations, rules. Everything was about achievement and status. Nothing was ever good enough. So I became better than good enough. I became the best. And now they say I went too far." Marcus thought about his own parents. His father had worked in construction and came home exhausted every night, but always had time to throw a baseball with his son. His mother had worked 2 jobs to keep them fed but never missed his school plays. They had not had money or status, but they had had love. "Maybe they are right," Marcus said carefully. "Maybe success is not the same as happiness." Victoria stood up abruptly. "You do not understand," she said. Her walls were going back up. "You could never understand what it takes to build what I built. The sacrifices, the choices." She left the library without another word. Marcus sat alone with the Hemingway book and wondered if Victoria had ever let anyone actually see her. Really see past the armor she wore. The next morning, Marcus found a note slipped under his door. It was in Victoria's precise handwriting. "Thank you for the fruit." It was good advice, it was not much. Just a simple acknowledgement. But it was the first time Victoria had said thank you to him for anything. Marcus kept the note in his pocket all day. Word spread through Morrison Technologies faster than a computer virus. The CEO was going to play chess with a janitor. By noon the next day, everyone in the building knew about it. Executives whispered in elevators. Administrative assistants gossiped in break rooms. The IT department started an illegal betting pool on how quickly Victoria would win. Victoria scheduled the game for Friday afternoon in the main conference room. She wanted witnesses. She wanted everyone to see that her challenge was legitimate. She was not backing down just because a janitor had the audacity to accept. Marcus spent the week trying to ignore the stares and whispers. His co-workers treated him differently now. Some thought he was brave. Others thought he was stupid. Danny kept asking him what his plan was. Marcus had no plan. He just knew how to play chess the way his grandfather had taught him. On Friday afternoon, Marcus changed out of his janitor uniform into the only dress shirt he owned. It was old and slightly faded but clean. He took the elevator up to the executive floor. His hands were shaking slightly, not from fear of losing but from the surreal absurdity of the situation. The conference room had glass walls. Marcus could see dozens of people gathering outside to watch. Senior executives stood with their arms crossed and skeptical expressions. Junior employees held up phones to record the game. Security guards tried to maintain order, but even they were craning their necks to see. Victoria was already seated at the table. In front of her was an expensive marble chess set. Each piece was hand-carved and probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. She wore a gray business suit and her hair was pulled back severely. She looked like she was about to conduct a hostile takeover, not play a game. "Sit down," she instructed. Marcus sat. The leather chair was more comfortable than any furniture he had ever owned. "Standard rules," Victoria announced loudly enough for everyone outside to hear. "No takebacks, no outside assistance. First person to achieve checkmate wins. Are you ready?" Marcus nodded. His throat was too dry to speak. Victoria gestured to the board. "You have white. That means you move first. It is considered an advantage." Marcus knew this already, but he did not correct her. He reached out and moved his pawn forward 2 squares. A simple opening move that his grandfather had taught him first. E4, the most common opening in chess. Victoria responded immediately. Her hand moved with practiced confidence. She brought out her knight. The game had begun. Outside the glass walls, people pressed closer. Phones recorded every move. Someone had set up a laptop to broadcast the board position in real time. By the second move, thousands of people in the building were watching on their computers. Marcus played slowly. He studied the board before each move like he was reading a book. Victoria played quickly. She barely glanced at the pieces before moving. Her confidence was absolute. She had played this opening 100 times. She knew every variation and every trap. But something felt wrong. Victoria's instincts were usually perfect. After her third move, she felt a small flutter of unease in her stomach. The position looked normal, but something was off. Marcus had positioned his pieces in a pattern she almost recognized. She played her fourth move, a good developing move that brought her bishop into the game. Textbook chess, nothing fancy. Marcus looked at the board for a long moment. Then he picked up his queen and moved it diagonally across the board. The piece landed with a soft click against the marble. "Checkmate," he said quietly. The room outside exploded in noise. People shouted in disbelief. Someone dropped their phone. Victoria stared at the board like it had personally betrayed her. It was impossible. The game had lasted 4 moves. 4 moves. Victoria had played chess for 20 years and nobody had ever beaten her in 4 moves. This was the kind of thing that happened to beginners who did not know what they were doing. But Victoria was not a beginner. She was a master. And yet she had walked directly into the oldest trap in chess. Scholar's mate, a cheap trick that only worked on people who were not paying attention. "No," Victoria said. Her voice was barely a whisper. Marcus pointed at the board. "Your king cannot move. My queen controls all the escape squares. Your pieces cannot block. That is checkmate." Victoria's hands were shaking. She looked at every possible move. Marcus was right. Her king was trapped. The game was over. The people outside the glass were going insane. Half of them were cheering. The other half looked shocked. Someone shouted that Marcus had cheated, though nobody could explain how. The betting pool had been completely destroyed. Nobody had bet on a 4-move game. Victoria stood up. Her face had gone pale. She looked at Marcus with something between fury and disbelief. "You beat me," she said. It sounded like an accusation. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied. He still looked uncomfortable, like he was waiting for someone to tell him this was all a joke. Victoria's mind was racing. She had made her challenge public. She had given interviews. She had signed legal documents prepared by her lawyers, stating that she would marry anyone who beat her. Half the world had watched her make this promise. If she backed out now, her reputation would be destroyed. People would say her word meant nothing. But marrying a janitor was insane. What would the board of directors say? What would her investors think? What would her parents say when they found out their daughter was marrying someone who cleaned toilets for a living? "A deal is a deal," Victoria said finally. Her voice was hollow. "We will discuss terms. My lawyers will contact you." She walked out of the conference room without another word. The crowd parted for her like water. Someone started clapping but stopped immediately when they saw her expression. Victoria did not look back. She went straight to her office, locked the door, and stood at the window looking out at the city. For the first time in her adult life, Victoria Morrison had lost something that mattered. And she had lost it to someone she had considered beneath her notice. Marcus sat alone in the conference room for several minutes. Outside, people were arguing about what had just happened. Some claimed Victoria had let him win. Others insisted she had been overconfident. A few people were already calling it the greatest upset in chess history. Danny burst into the room with a huge grin on his face. "Dude, you just won a billionaire. Do you understand what this means? You are going to be rich." Marcus did not feel rich. He felt tired and confused. This was not supposed to happen. He had accepted the challenge because he needed money for his family. He had not actually expected to win. Victoria Morrison was supposed to be a genius. Chess masters had failed to beat her. But Marcus had watched her play, and he had seen something that others had missed. Victoria was brilliant, but she was also arrogant. She had not considered that a janitor might actually know how to play. She had not taken him seriously. So she had played her opening moves automatically without really looking at what he was doing. Marcus had seen the trap developing after his second move. He had baited her into it carefully. The position looked safe, but it was not. One wrong move and the game would be over. Victoria had made that wrong move because she had not believed he was capable of setting a trap. His grandfather had taught him that the best chess players were not the ones who knew the most openings or studied the most games. The best players were the ones who understood their opponents. Victoria had not understood Marcus. She had seen a janitor. He had seen a person who had never learned to lose. Over the next week, Marcus tried to return to his normal life. But nothing was normal anymore. Reporters camped outside his apartment building. His phone rang constantly with numbers he did not recognize. People stopped him on the street to take pictures. Some wanted autographs. Others wanted to interview him. A few just wanted to tell him he did not deserve what he had won. The media coverage was relentless. Every news channel had opinions. Some praised Marcus as an underdog hero. Others accused him of being a con artist who had somehow tricked Victoria. Social media exploded with theories. People analyzed the game move by move, looking for evidence of cheating. Chess experts gave interviews explaining how Scholar's Mate worked and why it was embarrassing that a master had fallen for it. Victoria disappeared from public view. She stopped giving interviews. She stopped attending events. The board of directors at Morrison Technologies held an emergency meeting. Some wanted her to back out of the marriage. Others insisted she honor her word. The company's stock price dropped 3% on the uncertainty. 2 weeks after the game, Marcus received a call from a lawyer. "We represent Victoria Morrison," the voice said. "We need to meet with you to discuss the terms of your arrangement." Marcus met them in a downtown office that was all glass and steel and leather furniture. 3 lawyers sat across from him with thick folders of documents. They looked at him like he was something unpleasant they had found on their shoe. "Miss Morrison intends to honor her commitment," one of them said. "However, there are conditions. This will be a marriage in name only. You will sign a contract agreeing to divorce after 1 year. At that time, you will receive a settlement of $5 million. During the marriage, you will maintain separate residences and make no claims on Miss Morrison's assets beyond what is specified in the contract. The lawyer pushed a document across the table. It was over 100 pages long. Marcus flipped through it. The language was dense and complicated, but the meaning was clear.